Salt Papi and Anthony Taylor went toe-to-toe on Misfits Boxing 007, coming into it as the people's main event and the fight that everyone wanted to see. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how Anthony Taylor was able to expose the holes and weaknesses that were in Salt Papi. So Salt Papi, of course, a huge fan favorite in YouTube boxing, coming off highlight reel knockouts, first with the second one being a pretty credible opponent in Josh Bruckner, where that was considered a 50-50 fight with the boxer in Salt Papi, with the bigger guy with a bit more of experience in Josh Bruckner. And with Salt Papi making quick work of him in the second round, with a sharp left-hand counter, he got the praise of the world, and pretty much all the hype you could imagine. He was very hyped up to be the best YouTube boxer, and he has crazy natural talent and huge potential, where many people were even saying that Salt Papi should just go pro and not even fight these influencers anymore because he's way beyond that level. Even Eddie Hearn, who is a big-time boxing promoter, has given him high praise, saying that he wants to take him into the pro leagues after that win. And Ryan Garcia even saying that he thinks that Salt Papi is the best YouTube boxer above both KSI and Jake Paul.
Who are the top 3 creator boxers right now?
Salt Papi.
Yes.
One?
Yes.
One? Salt Papi won?
Yes.
Technically wise, and like he seems like he understands boxing at a higher level, so I would say Salt Papi. Technically.
But the thing was, he was still inexperienced and relatively untested. So the Anthony Taylor fight was definitely going to tell us a lot nonetheless. And it definitely delivered on that as Salt Papi's first true test. A guy in Anthony Taylor who would really fight anyone steps up and fights Salt Papi, who at the time was a very feared opponent. No one really wanted to fight him as obviously they just saw his knockouts and him not even really getting touched in any of his fights. He had this invincible aura that he couldn't be beat and that he's way beyond this level. But during this fight, Anthony Taylor just perfectly executed a great game plan and was able to expose Salt Papi's flaws. He was very active and always took the fight to where Salt Papi wasn't comfortable, which was in the clinch and making it rough, making it a dogfight, and just using his attributes on him as a wrestler and former MMA fighter. While Anthony Taylor is a bit shorter, he has a lot of experience and is by far the most active YouTube boxer in this entire scene, as he's not even really a YouTuber. He's a former MMA fighter who's really just made a name for himself and become a crossover boxing from the opportunities he was able to get as Jake Paul's sparring partner, getting a fight against Tommy Fury, going the distance with him, and going the distance with Idris Virgo as well. 2 real up-and-coming prospect boxers. Well, maybe not on elite levels, they were still pros, and Anthony Taylor really showed his durability and just the fact that he is a really tough guy to fight, which is why it was a stylistic nightmare for Salt Papi. Salt Papi didn't really have much time to even get started, and he didn't get started throughout the entire fight. The first round, Salt Papi definitely did have more success, but the later it went on, it definitely favored Anthony Taylor more and more. Salt Papi's guard was very open, and he didn't seem to have much energy throughout the rounds. It's hard to tell whether that's just his style and he just wants to counterpunch, or he just didn't have much in the tank. But Anthony Taylor was just a busier fighter and overwhelmed him with a large shot variety and punch selection. And Anthony Taylor just seemed to be the better fighter on the night. He was more diverse. He was mixing it up well to the body and to the head, something that Salt Papi didn't really do. He was majorly headhunting, which didn't work as Anthony Taylor does have good movement and he's able to read shots well and duck down and come close in order to evade shots, and pretty much just negated everything that Salt Papi had to offer. It was the first time we really see Salt Papi just shut down like this, and obviously just the first time that we see Salt Papi lose a fight. Anthony Taylor was all over him from the beginning bell to the end. As for the 9 minutes that they were in the ring, he controlled a majority of them, walking Salt Papi down and imposing himself perfectly, where Salt Papi didn't get to fight at his range. Usually Salt Papi is on the back foot looking for his counters, like against Josh Bruckner where he was able to counter him with a perfect left. But in this one, he was a lot more stumped. He didn't really have many options, and it was the first time we really saw him against someone who put it on him and fought back and figured out how to beat him. And with this fight only being a controversial 3 rounds, I don't think it favored Salt Papi, as Anthony Taylor was able to go forward and hunt him down, landing right hands over the top non-stop, and Salt Papi just not making those adjustments that he needed to get the job done. Either in between rounds or just during the fight, he really just never had an answer. He is a great talent though, and all credit to him for even taking that tough of a fight, because people really underestimated Anthony Taylor and his skill set, as well as his experience and what he could do in the ring. Anthony Taylor is probably one of the toughest guys that you could take on in this entire scene. He's never going to stop coming forward and pressuring you, and he's also going to be very durable, hard to get out of there. Handles himself well against real professional boxers, and Salt Papi held himself well, went the distance, and while he did lose, he did keep it competitive at times. I do think Salt Papi may have fallen in love with his power a little bit too much, coming off of 2 emphatic knockouts, them really emphasizing his straight left and hooks a bit too much, rather than timing his shots better and thinking methodically, keeping the fight at range. Especially in inside exchanges, Salt Papi would just kind of cover up on the ropes and not really do anything, not counter Anthony and just let Anthony do his thing, which obviously isn't where Salt Papi wants to fight. Salt Papi does have great fundamentals, and he does throw his shots with precision as he is fast, and he has great feints, but he does have to work on his gaps, especially defensively. He didn't really get out of the way of many shots, as with his style, he really needs to always be moving. But he did get criticized in this one for not being as dedicated because of this only being 3 rounds and at a higher weight than most people expected, which I definitely don't think the 3 rounds worked in his favor, considering Anthony Taylor was just able to be as active as possible and put as much pressure he wanted in those 3 rounds without having the worry of gassing out. Another thing that Anthony Taylor did do a good job of is finishing every exchange off right. If Salt Papi would land on him or maybe counter, he would always make sure to get his own back and end the exchange positively, which obviously on the judges' scorecards is an important thing, especially in a 3-rounder. And he would continuously get into Salt Papi's face, dig his head in, and just make it a rough fight where he was just way more active. In the clinch, he looked like he knew what he was doing a lot more. And that's because he did know what he was doing more in the clinch, obviously having that MMA experience, and Salt Papi not really liking a close quarters match. Anthony Taylor mixed it up well and showed his diversity. I do think that his stock goes up tremendously after this win. And while Salt Papi's stock definitely does go down right now, influencer boxing isn't the same as real boxing, and losses / undefeated records don't really have the same impact. As if in the pros you lose a couple times, you're usually just out of the conversation and your value diminishes tremendously. But in influencer boxing, there's always going to be more opportunities. You're going to get on more cards and you're going to be on the big stage again, especially if Salt Papi keeps fighting these influencers. He can easily get on more KSI cards or even headline his own shows and still have the big stage on him with his support from the Philippines. We've seen guys like Anison Gibb and Deji bounce back from losses really greatly. Obviously, Gibb took a bad loss to Jake Paul and was able to come back and better than ever against Taylor Holder and then beating Austin McBroom twice. And we know Deji's story, losing 3 times and being able to come back, and he is still one of the biggest draws in the scene. As well as Gibb, he is definitely one of the top dogs as well, so Salt Papi can definitely bounce back from this. And as long as he learns from this and improves, he'll definitely raise his stock back up. Anthony Taylor was definitely slept on coming into this, with polls even favoring this fight at 90-10 in favor of Salt Papi, which obviously the fight didn't reflect, but Salt Papi's hype was just at an all-time high, with everyone thinking that he is the boogeyman that will go through the rest of the YouTube boxing scene and the one that will be the last man standing in the end. But Anthony Taylor definitely showed that he's one of the top dogs in the scene, and he's a very tough challenge for any high-level YouTube boxer. He fought Salt Papi when really no one else wanted to, and he got the job done in impressive fashion, was able to expose the holes in Salt Papi that we didn't know if he had. But Salt Papi's definitely a great fighter, and I do see him coming back better than ever after this fight, as a loss can either make or break you, and I do see Salt Papi coming back better than ever. He's a very humble outlook on things, and he has very respectable skills. And considering the level of opposition, if he goes back to fighting influencers, I definitely see him having a lot of success. As well as just for his level of experience, he's definitely very skilled. And if he's able to improve on his defense, his fight IQ, as well as other things like maybe his shot selection and body work, I definitely see him becoming a problem and a threat for everyone else. Potentially even being able to work his way up to get a rematch against Anthony Taylor once again, because I do think he does have real talent and potential. So yeah, that's my breakdown on how Anthony Taylor was able to expose the weaknesses in Salt Papi. An emphatic performance and a great showing from both guys, and we need to give these guys credit for even just stepping into that ring against each other. A lot of guys don't want to fight the best opponents, and Anthony Taylor and Salt Papi definitely prove that they do in their game. They'll take on any challenge, which definitely needs to be applauded. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on Anthony Taylor being able to derail this hype train for now. So yeah, that's it for this breakdown, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on for more.